Greetings, lovely people, and welcome to Fast Track Thoughts, where I give my first impressions, thoughts, and feelings relating to the newest in TV and movies. And this time we're going to be talking about Daredevil Born Again Season 2. So, first off, I just want to point out that this will be a spoiler adjacent conversation. This is very much just, flow of consciousness. I'm not going to be holding back anything. If you haven't seen the series and are just looking for a recommendation, yes, go watch it. If you liked the Netflix series, it's definitely on par with some of the best of that. And if you were a fan of the first season, I'd say it is considerably better than the first season of Born Again. So if you are interested in checking it out, I'd say just go for it. All 8 episodes are out now, and next week we are going to be getting a one-shot featuring the Punisher, which is vaguely related, but I won't get into that right now. And, on with the spoilers. Let's go. So, I just finished, literally 5 minutes ago, the final episode 8 of Season 2 of Born Again, and oh my... If you follow me on Blue Sky, you've already seen some of my ramblings about this series. I think that all but one of the episodes was some of the best Marvel television. And, I don't necessarily think that's a low bar to actually, reach. Because at the end of the day, we've had shows like Loki, like WandaVision. That's really it when it comes to what I think is, really good. But yeah, beyond that, looking at the wider Marvel, TV verse, we have all the Netflix stuff, which the Daredevil and Jessica Jones shows were excellent. I didn't mind Defenders personally either. And then even, going a little bit even broader, I'm a huge fan of Cloak and Dagger. I'm a huge fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And yeah, I honestly think on a good day, Daredevil Born Again Season 2 on its own, just Season 2, could be the best piece of Marvel television, in my opinion. And yeah, that is kind of insane to think about, especially because Season 1, which I don't believe I made a video, I should have probably checked that before, but I'll check it for the actual review. This is a preamble to a review. I will actually be doing a full review, but I'll be waiting until after Punisher One Last Kill, and be doing that as a combination review, but that's beside the point. I don't think I ever covered anything relating to Season 1 of Born Again, despite the fact that I was watching it, and I was quite enjoying it. I quite enjoy Daredevil Born Again Season 1. It's a bit of a mess. It's very obvious that it was, two different ideas put together. It was an original MCU take on Daredevil with just a lot of returning cast that then was merged into a continuation of the Netflix series. And it is a little rough around the edges, but I generally enjoyed it, and I liked a lot of the ideas included within it. And a lot of things that it set up that have then continued into this season are just great, honestly. But yeah, where do we even begin with this whole season? So yeah, it is a direct follow-up. We're still deep into, Fisk's control of New York, his mayorship, all the various, cog pieces moving around that. But beyond that, we also have this kind of dilemma for Matt, where, in Season 1 of Born Again, he was very much he didn't want to be Daredevil. He'd been avoiding it since the death of Foggy. And yeah, this season is very much him being forced to be Daredevil and not having a choice anymore. He has to do it. Starting with what gets framed as a terrorist attack in the first episode, the Northern Star. Once again, should have made notes for this, but the boat being sunk, that is just full of illicit weapons, illegal weapons. We have Mr. Charles, who is amazing. I love Matthew Lillard. Everything he does is great. I love him in the Scooby-Doo movies. I love him in Scream. I love him in just everything Matthew Lillard is in. He's great. But yeah, Mr. Charles being this CIA operative, this fixer of sorts that is now in Fisk's world, using Fisk as a pawn, and thinks he has some play over him and just doesn't. It's so good. Also, it vaguely, through DeFontaine, through the through the government owner of the New Avengers, does have some ties to the wider MCU, which I do appreciate. And I will quickly just throw this out because I'll probably not get back to this point later. It is really annoying that the show kind of doesn't expand beyond just the Netflix characters and then Swordsman. Like, we don't get any characters from the wider MCU returning. We get the characters from Netflix's Defenders in various forms, and then we get new characters that were introduced in Born Again either Season 1 or new for this season, other than Swordsman, who was obviously introduced in Hawkeye. And I feel like there's a lot of questionableness to that. Like, the fact that we don't get, in a season that is very, Kingpin heavy, we don't get any even mention of Echo, even though I think Echo working as part of the Daredevil's, like, army sort of thing, the Resist Rebel group, I think, like, having Echo there, even as just someone working in the background that, like, we occasionally have some interactions with, but not really, like, is kind of in the background, I think that would have been really good. Just having Echo there, just to kind of connect to that show, because that is the weirdest thing. Echo directly sets up the events of Born Again, because the events of Echo are what caused Kingpin to run for mayor. Which, like, in and of itself is such a weird thing where it's like, yeah, if you just watched directly through the Netflix series, if you watched all of Netflix and then just tuned out of Marvel ever since then, and were like, oh, Daredevil's back, guess I'll watch that, and suddenly he's mayor, and it's like, that's kind of weird, but it's because you have to have watched Hawkeye and then also have watched Echo, and just the fact that we don't get Echo, or Kate Bishop for the matter, from Hawkeye involved, especially when Swordsman is there, and Swordsman is kind of Kate Bishop's, like, father, stepfather, whatever. Like, he's technically, like, related to Kate Bishop. It's weird that we don't even get a mention of Kate Bishop at all. And I feel like this is still some of the issues from Season 1, where they're not fully intertwining with the MCU in a way that people really want. And maybe, I'll probably eat my words a little bit when it comes to the Punisher. Obviously, he's going to be appearing in the next Spider-Man movie, and he has his one-shot, which ties into this season of Born Again. So maybe, like, there'll be something there where... And fair enough, like, Daredevil may also appear in the next Spider-Man. Like, that's completely possible. Though the ending... I'll get to that in a second, but the ending kind of insinuates that's not going to happen. But, yeah, as it is, the whole, like, conceit of, Daredevil is bringing in the reinforcements, it's, there's the Resist Rebel sort of group, like this, like, Daredevil army that's coming, and yet when it culminates, when it gets to, like, the peak of what it could be, it's literally just Daredevil and Jessica Jones. Like, no one. Oh, and White Tiger. Sorry, White Tiger is amazing in this, by the way. I want her to have the full suit, but she's getting close. She's getting to a point where she has the motif. She just doesn't have the full look yet, and I'm looking forward to seeing that hopefully next season. I love White Tiger, like, from the comics, and unfortunately my main experience with White Tiger is from the Ultimate Spider-Man TV series, animated series, which I know is a not too popular version of that character. But yeah, White Tiger in general I think is a very cool character, has some really neat like, ways she could be used in the future. And all being well, like, we'll see the full, like, development of that character, and actually potentially even have her in something like the Champions or some other like, younger Avengers style group, which, is probably on the cards, but we don't really know how much the Born Again stuff is going to influence the rest of the MCU. And coming back around to what I was saying about, like, we're not seeing Spider-Man or, the new Avengers or any of the other New York based superheroes or vigilantes, like, involved here, despite, like, Spider-Man does get mentioned, so at least there's that. But at the same time, it's a little inconsistent with the fact that, like, especially by the end of the series, where, the mayor of New York has, declared a citywide emergency, has barricaded himself in a courthouse and stuff, and, there's, some, like, quote-unquote violent protesters, like, in the streets, dressed as Daredevil, dressed as vigilantes, and the fact that, like, we don't get any involvement from any of the various, different superheroes and vigilantes that are in New York. Like, the MCU often gets, laughed at for the fact that the vast majority of the superhero and vigilante population is like based, in New York. But like that in the comics, at least, really does allow for some really interesting crossovers and just cameos and stuff like that, and really fun things where it's like this world feels alive and lived in, and these characters all know each other and stuff, and it makes sense. And then you look at how the MCU treats that, and so often it'll be stuff like this where like, or like even with the events of Thunderbolts, like everything getting voided and everything, and apparently we are going to get some taste of that, like the effects of other people from that in the next Spider-Man movie, which I know I just keep calling it the next Spider-Man movie. It's called Brand New Day, I think. Sorry, I'm there's so many things going through my head that I'm struggling to get my thoughts together right now. But yeah, when it comes to like the actual direct involvement of different things that are happening in New York that are pretty major, like not every show, but a lot of shows have pretty major events happening in New York, and same goes for a lot of the movies, and yet it's very rare there's any real crossover there, and it is kind of weird that it's like we didn't get any sort of void thing in Born Again, and maybe they just weren't prepared for it, but like the timing would line up where they could have easily had something between something either late in Born Again Season 1 or early in Born Again Season 2 where they showed the void, because that obviously affected New York, and that's where it's all set, and just, it's weird that apparently happened during Wilson Fisk's mayorship, and yet it doesn't get mentioned at all in Born Again. Like, it's so weird. But yeah, with all my ramblings about how the MCU doesn't really function as a, collective world aside, everything that we are given in this show in terms of the main, like, plotline and everything is so good. Like, my one criticism is that episode 6, I think, episode 6, felt a bit like a step down in quality. It was largely set during the day, which obviously doesn't help a show like Daredevil, unfortunately. Things like Jessica Jones being introduced in that episode, or reintroduced in that episode, it felt like such a pointless cameo. And fair enough, she then became a much bigger part in the next few episodes, so it ended up being okay. But the initial fight involving Jessica and stuff just felt so forced. It almost felt like Daredevil's cameo in She-Hulk, except at least with that, I can, like, put it aside because we're working with She-Hulk, She-Hulk is, at its core, a comedy, whereas when we essentially get the same style of treatment for Jessica Jones within Daredevil Born Again Season 2, it's like, well, why are you treating this return without, like, the grandiosity or whatever that it necessarily deserves? I feel like that was a lot of what kind of shut me down on that episode specifically. It's just, it felt like the series, every episode was getting better and better and better, and the story was building so well. And I felt like episode 6 just kind of ground us to a halt. And it was really disappointing in that way. But, like, in general, I think every episode was great. And realistically, episode 6 was a good episode. It just felt like they'd pulled the brake a little bit. They'd slowed it down a little bit. They'd, pulled everything back to look at, like, a wider picture that just didn't quite sit right with me, I suppose. And I'm sure I'll get more into this in the actual proper review when I've got, like, notes and actually broke it down and thought about it a little bit more than, immediately after watching episode 8. But yeah, that episode alone did kind of kill momentum a little bit, but overall, ignoring that, it was 7 out of 8 episodes of some of just the best Marvel entertainment I've seen. And, we're getting a lot of continued setup. Obviously, we're going to be getting a female Muse in next season. I did say spoilers. This is technically stuff that isn't, like, officially announced. Though it is very heavily implied in episode 8. We know for a fact that we are actually going to be getting female Muse, which I think is fun. I think that's a cool thing. I'm very curious as to what's going to happen with Kingpin now. We've seen some set photos from season 3 that imply he's just going to be like a hobo in the streets. Though based on how this season ends, I think that the outfit we've been seeing him wearing is actually a disguise. Because seemingly he's not allowed to enter New York anymore. But obviously he's in New York during season 3. So maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say at this point, because especially because right now we are, pre-Doomsday and everything. There is so much that could change in terms of how the MCU is structured. We could very easily see so many things like just not be the status quo anymore by the time, Daredevil Born Again season 3 actually happens. Which is why I'm hoping that it is going to be good season 3 based on like everything we've seen in season 2. But I'm also just kind of worried that it's going to be thrown out of place by the events of Doomsday and Secret Wars. I'm hoping that's not going to happen, but like it does worry me slightly that like, yeah, there's a lot of big events about to happen before we next see Daredevil in his own show, and we may not even see Daredevil or Punisher or any of the Defenders in Secret Wars. Like at this point we're pretty confident that they're not going to be featured at all in Doomsday, which is kind of fair enough. Avengers films don't typically, feature the, ground level characters other than like Spider-Man. Though, I mean, arguably you could say that Endgame featured literally everyone, but we don't see them, so it doesn't really count. When it comes to Doomsday and Secret Wars, Doomsday, I'd fully understand if they just don't include characters like Daredevil, Punisher, because, what really are they going to benefit the plot with? Unless they are, like, put on a team with, like, Spider-Man. Like, if they are just, it's Spider-Man, Punisher, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. Sure, throw in the first appearance of Nova, just because, and White Tiger. There you go. Like, if it's just that's a grouping, and that's like they're Team New York, they're the ones that are just like camping out in New York, in whatever state that's left in after like the New Avengers and the other Avengers team like leave. That would be cool. That would be neat. But either way, when it comes to Secret Wars, I don't see a world where we don't at least get Daredevil, and I'd assume we'd probably get Punisher as well. Probably Jessica Jones, because they've seen how popular Jessica Jones' return was. But this is all becoming theory crafting. As I say, this is very much my thoughts and my feelings and my expectations and all that kind of stuff. The point of this, like, series, show, whatever, is purely for me just to ramble about something that I enjoy. That's why I don't do thoughts generally on anything other than Doctor Who that I don't enjoy. But yeah, I really like this season. I think this is legitimately like just great TV in general. Regardless if you are a fan of Daredevil, regardless of if you're a fan of the Netflix Marvel stuff, I think this is just excellent stuff. And yeah, I can't recommend it enough. Honestly, it's so good. I really enjoyed it. Like, as I say, the episode 6 is a low point for me, but I've heard plenty of people say that it was actually really good. A few people I've seen agree with me, like say similar points to me about it being a bit worse than the episodes around it. But like, I mean, I haven't rewatched the series yet. I haven't watched episode 1 again. So maybe episode 1 and episode 6 aren't like, as good as each other. Maybe episode 6 is still way better than episode 1. It's just episode 5 and episode 7 are both excellent, so it's like it makes episode 6 look worse. I don't know. Speaking of episode 5, though, I think it's so cool how we actually are using, like, essentially archival footage from, from the original Netflix series, and intertwining that with some flashbacks and some, new footage with some terrible wigs and some terrible hair and just all the hallmarks of Disney not really knowing how to do like the past correctly, even when the past is something they're just replicating from a previous film or TV series or whatever. Getting the original Netflix letterboxing. It's not letterboxing. The aspect ratio. Getting the original Netflix aspect ratio was so funny. It was so blatant because we consistently this season have been getting the narrowing aspect ratio for like Daredevil's like Daredevil sense or whatever you want to call it. I can't remember what it's called in the comics. It has like a better name than that because it's not just supposed to be like Spider Sense, but for Daredevil it has an actual name. But yeah, like that whole way of like hearing things through walls and stuff, like consistently had like an aspect ratio shift throughout. And then we also got that same aspect ratio, well, a reversal of that aspect ratio shift for all the flashbacks and all the elements that were taken directly from Netflix. I just think that's really fun. Yeah. I think that the biggest thing, and the thing that I was absolutely... This is, like, all Episode 8 talk, so, like, if you haven't seen Episode 8, please definitely cut out now, but, yeah. The fact that Daredevil revealed his identity is absolutely insane, and obviously it's something we've seen in the comics. You know, it does happen every once in a while, and it's not like with Spider-Man where they could just undo it. Like, it's like, this is like a permanent change to who Daredevil is, and I think that's amazing. I'm so excited for the future, because we've already had 5 seasons of, you know, Daredevil being a secret identity, you know, and the MCU is full of people that are known. Like, literally, I Am Iron Man is what kind of set up the entire MCU, and since then, no one has really had secret identities other than, like, Spider-Man, and that's really it. Like, there's characters that we don't know who they are, you know, it's a mystery, and then it gets revealed, but, like, that's the thing, it always gets revealed in the end. Like, Spider-Man's the only character that is, like, seen as necessary to keep the identity secret. And for a while, like, Daredevil was there as another one where it's like, oh yeah, probably should keep the identity secret. Same with, like, Iron Fist, weirdly. They kind of have that sort of approach. But yeah, when it comes to Daredevil, it makes perfect sense. Reveals identity as a linchpin, as something to defeat Fisk. And do it in such a public way that it can't just be easily, you know, pushed under the rug sort of thing. I think that's really fun. I think that's really cool. And I'm very excited to see what happens beyond that. Obviously, we know that that Matt is now in jail, you know, along with all the AVTF, which is terrifying. But I'm very interested in seeing how exactly they get out of that. By the sounds of it, based on some, you know, photos and stuff, behind the scenes stuff for season 3, it's possible we might actually see a breakout done by Luke Cage. Like, that might just be coincidental that they just happen to be filming at the same time. But it does seem that Matt is in his, you know, prison jumpsuit at the same time as Luke Cage and Jessica Jones are there, which is really interesting. And obviously we get Luke Cage at the end of this. It's the first time we've seen him since... Ooh, when was the last time we saw him before this? I can't remember the release date. It was Luke Cage season... I don't even remember how many seasons Luke Cage... Was it 2 seasons Luke Cage? It doesn't really matter, but I think we haven't seen him since his final episode of his show, which has been a long time. That's nearing on a decade at this point. Jeez. If not already a decade. Wow, time is bad. But yeah, when it comes to having characters like that brought back into the fray, it's really fun. I'm really excited to see how they actually resolve, you know, Matt's current predicament. The fact that he's in there with the AVTF, I'm sure there's gonna be a really good fight scene for that. Which does beg the question, like, is Daredevil actually, like, stronger than, like, you know, 20 guys? Like, he doesn't have super strength or anything. He's just a guy, like, for the most part. He's just really skilled, and no one expects it because he's blind. But, like, when he's Daredevil, he's not blind. But he has the batons and stuff, which, oh boy, the use of the batons this season, so good. It's the best we've seen. He never really used them properly, like, in my opinion, in the Netflix series. And he had moments of kind of using it properly in season 1 of Born Again, but oh boy, he is using them in all the right ways. He's flinging them off everything. He's doing his bullseye routine. It's great. Something I haven't even mentioned, Bullseye. Poindexter, he's great. I love him. I love his redemption arc in this. He even gets hired by the CIA. Crazy. That's a dangerous weapon right there. But yeah, it'd be really fun if Bullseye actually does become part of the Dark Avengers, which, like, is kind of what the New Avengers is, in a way. But obviously, Bullseye in the comics, like, cosplays as Hawkeye for the Dark Avengers. So, like, I'm just imagining now, like, we just have a Dark Avengers that just, like, currently has Bullseye as Hawkeye. And I love that. I just love the idea of that in like a comic accurate outfit as well. Like, Bullseye. wearing a comic accurate Hawkeye uniform is just so fun to me. But yeah, I really like this. I don't think there's really much else to say. Like, a lot of my thoughts right now are just, oh boy, what's next? Because I'll be honest, I have been religiously watching this every single, like, I get home from work and I immediately just put Daredevil Born Again on. It's been like that since episode 1. I still haven't watched Maul Shadow Lord, or whatever it's called, the new Star Wars show. I still haven't even touched that. But Daredevil, I was there every single week, and I'm so excited for more of this. I'm so very excited. I'm probably going to rewatch the Netflix era and then Hawkeye and Echo and season 1 of Born Again at some point this year, just because I want to just recap everything. And I'll probably do an actual video if I get around to that this year. I'll probably make a video like going over like the best and worst aspects of, you know, the Defenders franchise essentially within the MCU. But yeah, that is really everything that I wanted to ramble on about, and this was really a ramble. Wow, we're at 26 minutes. So with that being said, that is going to be it for this video, for my thoughts, for my feelings, for my expectations, for just everything that I wanted to go on about for a little bit, unscripted, surrounding Born Again Season 2. Such a good show. So good. I am really excited for the future of this show, and I just wanted to influence or be influenced a little bit more by the MCU at large. That's like my biggest thing right now, is I just want some breadcrumbs, you know, just some little things dropped in to be like, oh yeah, these are a connected universe. Like, this isn't just a standalone project, because a lot of the time, like, Swordsman isn't introduced as like, oh yeah, it's a guy from Hawkeye. He, like, essentially, you could have not watched Hawkeye, you could have not watched Echo, and for the most part, you could still follow, you know, Netflix Daredevil to Born Again, and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. Obviously, there's a lot of questions surrounding that connection. I forget as well, season 3 of Daredevil on Netflix like ended with him being crushed under a building. So it's like, there's a lot of weird things there. But and then there's also the cameo. There's the cameo in She-Hulk, and there's also the cameo in No Way Home. There's so much stuff with Daredevil where it's just, he's everywhere. He's absolutely everywhere. I love it. I'm here for it. And yeah, that's going to be it, though. I'm going to stop there. So, yeah, if you enjoyed this ramble, these thoughts, these feelings, these whatever we're calling this right now, I hope you did. And if you did, make sure to like it, subscribe if you're into it, and ring the bell so you never miss an upload. Otherwise, come your thoughts and feelings on Born Again Season 2. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Do you think it is a much bigger improvement from Season 1? Or do you think it was actually somehow worse? I like Season 1, but it isn't, compared to Season 2, it is nothing. But yeah, with that being said, it's going to be from me. So, as I said, I will be doing a full review of this alongside Punisher One More Kill, probably in the next month. Hopefully by the end of May I'll have it done. I have other things that I'm supposed to be working on, but this takes precedent at a certain point because it is so good. But with that being said, it's going to be from me. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
It's been a long week. I feel like I could use a vacation. I can hardly think. It's like the worst song you've ever heard on every station.